Here at Buzzards Bay Brewery, we turn water into beer. We do all ales here. We have golden ales, stouts, porters, brown ales, IPAs, and pale ales. Not only do we take pride in our beer here at Buzzards Bay Brewery, we have the key ingredient, which is great water, and we have our natural spring right outside the brewery. Today we're making our IPA, our Buzzards Bay IPA. What we do is we mill in our grains. We have barley, oats, and wheat malt usually. So what I have here is black roasted barley, and we have all different kinds of roast. What you do for the black is they really roast it till they almost burn it, so you get a nice smoky, kind of roasty taste and aroma to the malt. So what we do here is we would just cut this bag open on a day before the brew, flip it up like this, and then it will get all milled in and kind of break up the barley to get that fine floury starch. And we usually add about 10 to 20 bags, and then we'll add about 2,000 pounds of our pale malt that's in the silo outside. So after we're done milling in, all the grain comes down this chute into the mash tun here. And what we do there is we bring it to around 140 and convert all that starch into sugars. And we bring it up to about 170, and then we stop that process, stop extracting. And then from there, we convert it into this center tank here, which is called the lauter tun. And that sends rakes through and separates all the husk from the wort. So now we just have the sugar water. And then from there, we go back into the brew kettle where we bring it to a boil, and we'll add our hops, which give it that bitter floral aroma in your beer. All right, so after we're done boiling the wort in the mash tun, it travels along these valves and pipes here into the whirlpool, which does exactly what it sounds like. It creates a whirlpool, and it kind of settles out anything that we didn't get to strain out of the lauter tun. After we're done in the whirlpool, the wort is traveling through these heat exchangers here just to cool it down. And we get it around 75 degrees before we pump into the fermenters with this purple hose here. It will be hooked to the bottom of the tank, and we'll fill the fermenter from the bottom up. So from the whirlpool, now we're pumping over into the fermenter. We're filling it from the bottom up where the yeast is already waiting for it. And what that does is the yeast start attacking all those sugars in the wort, converting it into CO2 and alcohol. And all the beers that we do are ales, so they only take anywhere from 5 to 14 days, or you can do lagers that take anywhere from a month to 2 months. After about 2 weeks of fermentation, the wort has now turned into beer, so it has alcohol and CO2, and we pump it from the fermenters all the way to the bottling tanks there, and it takes about 40 minutes to pump over about 1,500 gallons. So after we finish pumping over from the fermenters into the bottling tanks, or some people will say the bright beer tank, this is where it comes to be prepped for bottling, and where we carbonate it. So what we do is we'll hook this little red hose, which is CO2, open this valve, and crack this one, just to vent it off a little bit. And what that does is there's a little porous stone in there that disperses tons and tons of CO2 bubbles, and we get the beer nice and cold so the CO2 will stick to the liquid. So after we're done carbonating the beer, the beer is ready to be bottled and kegged. So what we do is we have to sanitize the hose before we bring the beer into any machine. So I'm sanitizing now. I'll hook this hose up to the bright beer tank, and then I'll come over here where we're kegging beer. So what you do is you take this keg, flip it upside down, press start. It goes through a series of cycles, steam purge, acid detergent, CO2 fill, and then from there it's done. Put the keg down, and I can just tap it like this, tap it, fill it. And then it goes, once the sensor goes down, then you know it's filled, untap it, tap the next one, and repeat. So on the day of a bottling run, the bottles are entering the bottling machine where they first get rinsed out, and then they travel to the filler, which fills them at about 3,200 bottles an hour. And right before it exits the bottling line, it gets capped and then travels to the pasteurizer, where it heats it up to around 160 and kills any live yeast cultures that are still in the bottles. And it stays in there for about 45 minutes, exits the other side of the pasteurizer, travels to the labeler, where then it gets packaged and put on pallets and wait for the distributor to pick it up. A lot of people think that brewing's all fun and games, but it's really a lot of hard work. But at the end of the day, it's all worth it. Cheers.